Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today I'm going to be bringing you my biggest ever book unhaul. Earlier in December I did a book unhaul of books that I had with me in London, but today I'm going to be going through my bookshelves at my mum's house where the majority of my read books are. There are some unread books here as well, but it is mostly read, and there are a few different reasons why I'm going to get rid of these books, and when I go through all of them I'm sure I will be able to give you particular reasons for getting rid of those particular books. I used to have this idea that I would own a copy of every single book I'd ever read, and I am now someone that reads well over 100 books a year, so this is just ridiculous. It's not possible. It's just silly. I want my bookshelves to be representative of who I am as a reader, so I want them to be books I loved or books that impacted me in some way, books that I want to reread. Or if they're books that I don't necessarily think I will reread, they're definitely books that I think represent something about my interests. I want someone to be able to go and look at my bookshelves and get the sense of who I am as a person and who I am as a reader. My aim is to get rid of 50 books. None of the books behind me are going to be going. These are kind of like the books I collect, or particularly beautiful books. So I've got my Penguin English Library Classics behind me. I have some kind of particularly beautiful books. I have my collection of Alice books. I have a series of Unfortunate Events books and Harry Potter books down here. Like, nothing on these shelves are going to be going. No books that I have studied either at secondary school or at university are going to be going. As a long-term goal, I would like to recollect all of the books that I have studied over the years. You know, a lot of the books I studied I might have got out of the library or got a kind of ugly edition just to study from and then got rid of. I love the idea of having like a shelf in my library that represents my academic journey with reading. I'm probably not going to get rid of many, if any, poetry books or many, if any, books about gender and sexuality, because they are just like two subsections of my reading that I think really define me as a reader. As I move forward through my reading life and I expand my collection of books in these like categories, I may reevaluate and only keep the ones that I loved, but for now I like having like a little just gender and sexuality bit of my library. So I'm now going to go over to my bookshelves, have a little rummage around and see what I get rid of. As I said, the aim is 50 books, so let's see how we get on. Definitely got rid of more than 50 books. I feel very pleased about how that went. I try and do this in some sort of order that makes sense, but there's so many books that might just not end up working. But I think it's time to say goodbye to these guys. So I read the first book in A Song of Ice and Fire and I thought it was fine. I don't think I would have enjoyed it if I didn't have like a very clear sense of the first book from the TV show, and I know the books do deviate from the TV show as they go on, but I'm just really not a high fantasy person. I'm not even really sure why I have all of these books. Staying with series, I'm also going to be getting rid of the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. I read the first two books in this series and I quite enjoyed them, but for me, they're just kind of like average YA fantasy, which doesn't define me as a reader whatsoever, and reading the last book was beginning to feel like a burden and not something that I would enjoy. Same goes for the Mercy Falls series by Maggie Stiefvater. I read the first couple books in this series and I thought they were fine. Basically the exact same way that I feel about the Red Queen series. The final book was beginning to feel like a burden and not something that I would enjoy. There's actually only 2 more unread books that I'm getting rid of. Salt Blue by Gillian Morgan and The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson. I just don't have any desire to read these books anymore. I don't even really know what they're about, despite this having a very self-explanatory title. I tried to read another of this author's books once and I DNF'd it. I just really couldn't get into it, so it doesn't bode well for me enjoying this one. The rest of these books I'm going to go through very quickly because 1, there's a lot of them, and 2, I'm kind of getting rid of most of them for the same reason. These are either books that I didn't like or books that I enjoyed, but I don't feel like they define me as a reader anymore. Vox by Christina Dalcher and The Land of Decoration by Grace McLean. These are both quite large hardbacks, and I didn't enjoy either of them enough to really keep hold of them for the amount of space they take up. I do think this cover is gorgeous though, so I was tempted to hold on to it, but no. Said I was going to be brutal, and that's what's going to happen. As I've said, these books, they're ones that I enjoyed, but not really enough to keep hold of them. Another Place by Matthew Crowe, Faceless by Alyssa Scheinmel, The Book of Lost Things by John Connolly, Alice and the Fly by James Rice, The Husband's Secret by Leanne Moriarty. I loved Big Little Lies, but I haven't loved any of Leanne Moriarty's other books that I've read, so I think I'm going to give her 1 more chance and then I might be done with her. The Weight of Water by Sarah Crossan. I loved One by Sarah Crossan, but her other books haven't really resonated with me in the same way. You're the One That I Want by Giovanna Fletcher. I'm done with Giovanna Fletcher. Don't really like her books. Sister Noon by Karen Joy Fowler. This is another one where I read one of this author's books and I loved it, but I haven't loved anything I've read by her since. The Snow Child. I think it's a good book, but it's just not one that I love. Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. This was a really tricky one for me because I have read and loved a few of Rainbow Rowell's books, but I feel like Eleanor and Park isn't one that I really connect with. How to Be Bad by E. Lockhart, Lauren Miracle, and Sarah Milanowski. Again, just one that doesn't really define me as a reader anymore. The Particular Sadness of Lemon Cake and I'll Give You the Sun. Don't define me as a reader. New Irish Short Stories, edited by Joseph O'Connor. This has a bunch of different contributions from different Irish writers, but I just don't think I'm ever going to reread this collection again. Sweet Pea by CJ Skuse was a book that I really loved when I read it, but it's just one that I don't think I'm ever going to reread. I really hated the sequel to this. I really like the idea of passing this book on because it is a wonderful reading experience. It's a fantastic book, but it's just not one that I will ever want to go back to. When God Was a Rabbit by Sarah Winman. Enjoyed this one, but never going to come back to it. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Same thing. The Lola Quartet by Emily St. John Mandel. I loved Station 11, but I didn't love the Lola Quartet. Mr. Fox by Helen Oyeyemi. This book is fantastic, but I'm not the right reader for it. Helen Oyeyemi's writing is beautiful and lyrical, and it's full of magical realism, which are huge ticks for a lot of readers, but not really for me. The Magic Strings of Frankie Presto by Mitch Albom. Yeah, this wasn't one that I loved. Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. Really did not like this book at all, and also really don't like this author as a person. Trying by Emily Phillips. I adore this cover, and everything about this book screamed that it would be a book that I loved, but I just thought its execution was very poor. The Testament of Mary. Enjoyed it, didn't love it. Geek Girl by Holly Smale. I have read the entirety of the Geek Girl series, and I really enjoyed it. And I had this idea that I would collect all of the books in the series. I listened to them on audiobook when I read them, and I had this idea I could collect the series, but while I enjoyed it, I don't think I really actually want to do that. Far From You by Tess Sharp. The Rats by James Herbert. Ketchup Clouds by Annabelle Pitcher. All very different books, but all books I'm getting rid of for the same reason, in that they were just fine. I enjoyed them. Anatomy of a Soldier by Harry Parker. This is one that I was kind of on the fence about getting rid of, because I love the premise of this book. It's a book that's told through objects, but again, it's just one that I didn't love, and I said to myself, if I was on the fence about something, then I had to get rid of it, because if I wasn't like, yes, I want to keep this defines me as a reader, then it shouldn't be on my shelves. Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton, another YA fantasy series that I just don't want to carry on with. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I know a lot of people love this book and I didn't. So hopefully someone else will enjoy it a lot more than I did. Uprooted by Naomi Novik and Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. Again, more books that I have heard amazing reviews of, but they just weren't for me. 3 more books that I enjoyed but didn't love. Gretel in the Dark by Eliza Granville. The White Tiger by Aravinda Adiga, and The Sick Rose by Erin Kelly. I'm really interested to read more of Erin Kelly's books though. Some very little books now. I have 3 World Book Day books, Killing the Dark by Marcus Sedgwick, Spot the Difference by Juno Dawson, and Geek Drama, which is another little book in the Geek Girl series. Yeah, I just don't really want to keep hold of these. We'll also be getting rid of Race by Toni Morrison. I got a lot from reading this book that is made up of particularly important sections from Toni Morrison's full-length novels, and I think now that I have sampled them in this form, it's time I go on and read the actual novels rather than holding on to this. There is one more book that I'm getting rid of, but I'm not gonna show it in this video because it's actually a book that someone gifted me a few years ago, and I think it's time that that gift made it back to that person. So I'm not going to show it here. I don't know if they watch these videos, but just in case. So I don't actually know how many books I got rid of. I'll put it on the screen somewhere. But I feel quite good about myself. I don't feel anxious about any of these books leaving my life, which is good. I am going to try and sell most of these to Chapters in Dublin, which is like my favourite bookstore in the world. But anything that I don't manage to sell, I will probably just give to charity shops. Let me know down in the comments how you arrange your library. Do you keep hold of everything, or are you someone who will definitely like read something and then if you don't love it, it's out of your life? I'd love to have a chat about these things down below in the comments, because I think it's something that I'm definitely going to try continually reevaluating as the years go on. I'd love to have a chat with you guys about all this kind of stuff down below in the comments. I hope you guys had a brilliant Christmas or whatever holiday you are celebrating, even if it's just, you know, getting a chance to lie down for a bit. And I will talk to you guys in my next video.